Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Emmett Muckles, and I thank God that I can commune with you. This is the day that the glorious creators have made, so let us rejoice and be glad in every moment that we have. Today, on this day, I have a muse with me. I met this woman at Podcast Movement, and she looked me in the eye, and we made a connection, and she was like, we're going to be friends. And I was like, you bet your ass we are. I'm talking about none other than from Hong Kong Confidential, Jules Hannaford. Hi.
Hi, Emmett. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on your show today. That was an awesome intro. I'm all inspired.
You know, when I met you, I actually met you on the dance floor.
Yes, you did in the market where the party was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't care. When I see a dance floor, it's a wrap. I am on it. I don't care if there's usually there's a few women and no men, so that gives me an edge to get the guys out and to get everybody going, which is exactly what happened.
Well, you got the moves, that's for sure.
Well, thank you. And then I met you, and we became fast friends, and we've been talking off and on, and you've been counseling me in certain instances ever since. But you have written your first book.
Yes, I've written my first book called Fool Me Twice by Jules Hannaford, and it was a labor of love. And it's out in the market, and it's doing really, really well. And I'm getting amazing feedback from people that I know and from people that I don't know are sending me emails just saying how much the book has had an impact on them. So that's fantastic.
That's awesome. I'm going to tell you this. You inspired me. So I'm writing my second book.
Do tell.
Yes, I'm writing my second book called right now the working title is The Billionaire Lifestyle Workbook.
Oh, what a great idea. That's so cool.
You know about the philosophy of the billionaire lifestyle that I've come up with, but we're here to talk about your book. What made you decide to put it together? Because you bared a lot of things about your life, your early life, and your embarrassments and the bullying. And I mean, what makes one say, I'm going to bare my soul to the world?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I had known for 8 years since the big scamming thing happened in the UK, that I did want to write about it to help other people so that they wouldn't get caught in the same trap that I was. But it really was starting Hong Kong Confidential podcast, where I had all these amazing guests coming on my podcast, and they were telling me their secrets. They were bearing their souls and sharing their personal journeys with me. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so inspiring. And if these people can do this, then why can't I do this as well and finish my book? Right. And then a woman came on my podcast called Pashmina Pash. Her episode is like episode 14 or something, A Heart to Heart with Pashmina. And she runs an online author's office, and she really, I told her my story after the podcast, and she was really like, this is amazing, this is going to sell, you've got to do it. And so she was my champion, and she really encouraged me, and I joined the online author's office, and it went from there. So, and then it was fast. Then I had very little time to get it done.
And this is what I'm trying to figure out, because when I met you, your personality just was there, this confidence, this assertiveness, it was all there. But then you write this book and say how opposite your origin was from that. I mean, you have to let me in. How did that transpire? I know it's in the book, but I'm just talking.
Well, it's a really good question, because I think we all have a facade, or we all have a persona that we want to present to the world. And as a teacher and a mother and a podcaster and an author, I have a sense of confidence, and I do have a sense of responsibility and a sense of what's right and wrong. And I think this book just goes to show that being scammed or being bullied or being in a domestic violent relationship, all of which happened to me, can happen to anybody. And I guess it's kind of how you then process it and how you deal with it and how you learn from it and come through it. But we've all got elements to our personality that make us feel anxious or stressed or worried or not as good as, or comparing ourselves to others. I think everybody does it. And it's just how much you can cover that up out in society. So I think, you know, I've learned so much, and I am a confident person, and these things shouldn't have happened to me, but they did. And they can happen to anyone.
In your book, you talk about looking for love a lot. And what I found at odds is that you have this aura about you that is so attractive, but yet you can't land this thing that you're seeking.
You're so right. Thank you so much. That's a lovely compliment. I mean, yeah, I've been looking for a partner for many, many years. I think coming to Hong Kong 19 years ago didn't really help in that quest. It certainly helped in my career. I've had a wonderful career teaching in an international school, and I absolutely love my job. But anybody trying to date in Hong Kong, it's incredibly hard. And now that I'm older, I'm in my 50s, and I was in my 40s, I suppose. Or I was in my 30s when I got here, but still it was very difficult. I'm also 6 foot tall, and I don't want to date anyone shorter than me. That's just one of my deal breakers. And everyone has a go at me about it and says, just try and date a short guy or whatever. You know, it's not about their height. And I'm just like, I can't. I wish I could, but I can't.
So that's what it was. You saw me, you're like, oh yeah, he's about my height. Yeah, there are only about 3 people taller than me in the whole party, as usual. And also I guess being so busy and being a single mum, there's lots of factors that play into it. But certainly being in Hong Kong, everyone's so busy, people work long hours. It's very hard to find love. But I didn't have any success in Australia either. So I don't know. I've often questioned what's wrong with me, but I think deep down I know that it's nothing. It's just a lot of bad luck and me being perhaps a little bit too particular about what I'm looking for. You know, but that's a trait that I've found with many women over a certain age. And times have changed because I was divorced a couple of years ago and I was in the market again. And I saw 2 sides of the coin. There were these women who just said, basically, I'm going to be a dude. I'm going to go after and get what I want. And then there was the psychology of people of our age group where it was kind of an old school thing. Like, you have to chase me. And I'm kind of a young spirit. I'm like, we're equals at this point. I'm like, we don't have to worry about babies or anything else. Let's come together as friends and work that out. But, you know, these mentalities stick in place. Do you find that men are a little averse to, first of all, women who are statuesque and have their own being?
I think being taller, having a very strong, outspoken personality and a big presence can be perhaps intimidating to some people. I don't know. You know, if I knew the answer, that would be the $1 million question. So I really don't know. But yes, I definitely think that perhaps I'm not as approachable as I could be because I may seem intimidating because I'm so big. I don't know. It's hard to know.
I'm going to tell you how to do it. So the next time,
thanks. Quick, let me get a notepad.
No, it's a really simple concept.
Yeah.
So the next time you go out into a big public place, don't look at any men's faces. Don't even look at their height. Look at their hands. If they have really big hands, that's the one you go after.
Not all about that, Emmett.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not talking about that. Stop. I'm not talking about that because that's what my wife said to me. She's like, that was one of the first things I noticed about you. You have really big hands. I was like, what does that mean? She was like, that means I'm going to be secure because if you hold me, I'm secure.
Oh, that's interesting.
See, you went somewhere else, you dirty-minded thing, you.
That's only because I know you. I thought that's where you were directing me.
Right. But in the book, you talk about your childhood and how you had a really good relationship. You know, you were able to speak openly with your parents. And, you know, that transpiring, like you talking to your mother about things that are going on, happening with your body, things that are happening with you personally, which a lot of children nowadays don't feel that they can open up and do. What did you bring out of that, even though you went through some items where your insecurities began to bubble up, but you had this good foundation to, you know, progress you forward?
I think what I got out of that was a good sense of independence and a good sense of self and self-confidence. I really did come out of that with that. And also it inspired me to be a really open, caring, connected parent with my child as well. So I think it helped me be a good parent in many ways, even though there's, of course, in my parenting, there are things I wish I did differently. Now I look back, especially the fact that I had my child at 23, so I was just a baby. But I took a lot out of that, and I think I've been able to translate that into a lot of things, even in my teaching, the way that I care for students, and I'm really able to listen to them. I have a lot of kids come forward to me with a lot of quite serious issues or personal issues, and I'm the person they feel comfortable to come and talk to. So I think that's translated from my childhood.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
It is awesome. I'm really lucky. I love that kids will come and speak to me about their sexuality or their gender or their relationships or whatever's going on and troubling them and ask for my help.
So when you were younger and you were progressing forward, because you said that when you were a teenager, you were really tall and really, you hadn't developed. You didn't begin to develop till you were like 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And, you know, and those are the formidable years, particularly in most cultures. By the time a young lady is 13, she's basically a woman in those cultures. Did that delay how you approach things looking for a relationship?
I don't think so. I remember having crushes on guys when I was 15, and I really was only just starting to develop then. But I think in this day and age, girls are starting to develop earlier because of hormones in the food, hormones in the chicken and stuff like that. So I think that's got something to do with why girls develop younger. But I don't think that really made any difference in the way that I felt or that looking for a boyfriend or whatever it was at a young age. I think that I just developed normally, emotionally anyway, despite that.
Yeah. And
I was super sporty and grew up on a farm, and I was very outdoorsy, Aussie country girl. So, you know, I was having a fine old time.
That's awesome. Because, you know, I'm going to go through the table of contents kind of briefly here. You know, you open up with your childhood. Literally, that's the chapter of the book, My Childhood. And then being a grown-up, expanding my horizons, my one true man. We're going to come back to that. My life and photos, back home, this is me now. That's another one I want to delve into. And knowledge is power. So I want to jump forward from my childhood to my one true man, because that set an experience in your life that could have made things really negative.
Yeah, I could have died. I could have been killed. I was basically scammed and assaulted by he turned out to be a career criminal in the UK. I didn't know this at the time, but I had met him online, and within 2 months I decided I wanted to go and meet him. I guess it's always been my philosophy that if you meet someone online, you need to actually meet them to see if you truly have a connection.
Yeah.
I don't think you can connect online. You can't really fall in love online I think it's a fantasy, and it's not real. And people can write anything. People can be anyone behind a screen. And so I feel that it's important to meet people very quickly to work out if you truly do have a connection. Having said that, you've got to do it safely. And at the end of my book, which we'll come to later, there's a whole lot of red flags to watch out for and how to online date safely. But this guy, I went over to meet him, and it all just went horribly wrong. And I ended up being conned out of some money. He was incredibly manipulative and charismatic. I was at a stage in my life where I was desperately kind of looking for love. Like, I don't feel that sort of desperation anymore.
Yeah.
I can really take it or leave it now. But at that time in my life, I felt I was, pining for something that was really missing from my life. So I went over to meet him and just spent like a week there. And in that time, I handed over a bunch of money to him. And I ended up getting assaulted and really fearing for my life. And I felt very lucky to have survived. And then I found out later, spoiler alert, if you want to read the book, that he was a career criminal with over 20 aliases and a rap sheet dating back to the 1990s in the UK.
So what year was this?
This was 2010.
Oh, wow. That's recent.
Yeah. Yeah, it was only 8 years ago, or not nearly, 8.5 years ago.
So moving out of that, you transition this, and this is like laying out the book. You transition out of that, how your life in photos.
Yeah.
That's an odd name for a chapter.
Well, that's not really a chapter. That's in the middle of the book where all the photos for the book are. So that's there's no writing there, but that's just got pictures from my childhood and my early years as a mother and life in Hong Kong, and then me now.
And see, I'm a Kindle person, so sometimes it doesn't always come out.
Yeah. I don't think the photos are on Kindle. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Oh, they are. Okay, cool. So there's, pictures of the farm and stuff like that.
Now, this is where you are now makes sense because you're down under and you're not really far from home where you are now.
I'm a 9-hour flight in Hong Kong to Adelaide, but there's only a 2-hour time difference. So it's not too bad. So
what about England? Because you had some roots in England as well.
My family originally came from England, but that's like 7 generations ago for me. So it's a long time ago. There's a woman, a pioneer woman called Susanna Hannaford, whose husband died, and she took the $10 boat, a 10-pound boat from the UK to Australia with 8 sons.
Wow.
So she had 8 sons, and she took them all out on her own and settled in a place called Cuddly Creek in Australia. So I come from a long line of strong, independent, pioneering women. So perhaps that's why I'm still single. I don't know.
I want to know this fact. I want to know this. How tall were your parents?
So my dad is 6'2", and my mum is about 5'8".
Okay.
And I'm 6 foot. My brother's about 6'3", and my sister's like 5'5". I've got a very short sister.
Was she the last one?
No, she's the middle one, but she's obviously very upset that she's the short one in the family. But I've got a cousin. My cousin is 6'7".
Good Lord.
Or 6'9", one of the two. 6'7", I think. Yeah.
That's great when you're young, but as you age, those knees, oh my Lord. I can just tell you from the fact being 6 foot.
Yeah, tell me about it. My knees are shot now.
So when you became a single mom, when you became a mom, what was that like? What was that revelation when you found out you were going to be a mom?
I really, really wanted to have kids. I knew I wanted to have kids. I actually stupidly married somebody who didn't want to have any children, which was not a good idea when I wanted to. And I fell pregnant accidentally. So I was absolutely thrilled, and he wasn't so happy. But there was no question I was going to go ahead and have the baby. And I ended up having a home birth in the lounge in my in my home, and that was an amazing experience. I wouldn't necessarily do it again. Like, I think if I had a second child, I would have gone to hospital because there are a few risks involved, I guess. But for me, I was very athletic. I was young, and I was able to like do it, no worries. And I absolutely love being a parent. It's been probably the greatest achievement of my life, and I absolutely love it. And my daughter's incredible.
How old is your daughter?
She's turning 30 next month.
Oh, yeah. So she's got her own.
She got her own thing going on. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. What do you see in her? Do you guys dialogue and you tell her? I know you've communicated with her all the things that you've gone through, but she's living in a different time. So what's her take on some of the things that you went through?
Well, she actually did the final edit on the book. She's the final line editor on the book. So she really did go through it all with a fine-tooth comb. I think it was hard for her to start with, but she's really proud of me overall. So that's great.
And is she as tall as you?
Yeah, even taller maybe.
Really?
She's probably near 6'1", yeah.
Wow.
Or maybe I'm shrinking in old age, but she's definitely a little bit taller. Yeah.
So what's your goal for the book? What are your achievements? What do you hope to do? What do you hope the book does in this space, in this world right now?
I really hope that the book serves as a reminder for people to be safe and careful online. And I really hope that other people don't get caught in the same situation that I was, where I lost money and I feared for my life. And I feel very lucky to have escaped that situation. And in the book, there are a couple of other minor scams that I was involved in as well. This wasn't just the only scam. There were 2 other incidences where I lost money and where I was duped by these guys who weren't being truthful about what they were really about. And then at the end of the book, as I mentioned before, I've got some chapters on how to stay safe when you're online dating, what to look for in a scam email, red flags to be aware of. Like, for example, people when they message you and they have photos that look like they're models, that's a red flag. Where they refuse to speak to you on Skype or FaceTime and can make up excuses where you can't talk to them face to face, that's a red flag. Where they contradict their own story, where they say they work out on an oil rig and, you know, they're only back every now and again, or they're in Africa doing some charity work or something, you know, all of these things. There's so many red flags. I've got pages of them. So there's a lot of practical information in this book that can really help people to stay safe. And it's based on my research and also my personal experience online dating for now, like, I guess 13 years or 14 years. Yeah. So I really hope that people learn from it. But also I want people to understand that they can own their story, that they can overcome their shame, they can overcome their guilt, and they don't have to feel ashamed. And also the value of sharing your story. First of all, it can help others to come to terms with terrible stuff that they're dealing with. And secondly, it can be very cathartic. It can be a release, and it can really make you recognize that a lot of these things are not your fault and that you're still a great person and that you shouldn't focus on these negative things. So that's what I'm kind of hoping that the book will do for men and women out there who are online dating.
That's so sweet of you. That's good.
Oh,
you know, you covered something that stood out at me when I was looking at the table of contents, and I didn't get deep into it yet because I'm pretty early in the book, but menopause, because I've watched my previous wife go through it, and our relationship ended during that period. And I said to her during that time, I'm like, you sure you want to do this? You sure you just don't want to take some time, figure it out? Because I know you're going through some serious mental and physical anomalies that happens to people. But, you know, stuff happens. How did menopause affect you?
I think for me, menopause has been pretty tough, but I know that there are many women that have much worse than I've had to deal with. It's pretty hard. having said that, there are some other women where it's a breeze and they don't really have many symptoms. I've actually got a podcast on Hong Kong Confidential called Menopausal Musings, where three of us who dealt with it in different ways talk about menopause. One girl was on HRT, one did both, nothing and HRT, and I did a lot of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And it's really interesting to hear our different stories and our different experiences. But the underlying theme for all of us was the difficulty. And I'm in my 10th year of menopause now. I'm right at the end. It's really nearly over. I'm just sort of struggling at the moment with sleep and a bit of anxiety. But there are 66 or more symptoms for menopause. Ooh. And they can range from hot flushes to night sweats to not being able to sleep to anxiety to itchy skin to mood swings to all sorts of stuff. So it can be really, really difficult. And I urge people to talk more about it with their friends and family and seek support, because it's one of those things that people don't like to talk about. Or let's not say, oh, we're in menopause, because there's this societal sort of view that once you hit menopause, you're not as worthy as what you were when you were fertile. And that, you know, you're admitting that you're aging and then the value of older people in society is not as relevant as younger people, which isn't true. That's not true. But this is a sort of a general stereotype that we have. So I urge people to seek help from GPs, from counsellors, from dietitians, do exercise and Chinese medicine, acupuncture. All of these things can really, really help. But it has been a very difficult time, and I'm feeling grateful that I can see that I'm coming to the end of it and the symptoms are getting much better. Yeah. But I also feel that a lot of my internet dating disasters happened just around the time before I started perimenopause. And that's because I was so hormonal. And, you know, that's where you want that intimacy and you crave sex, basically. But I have found that now that I'm in menopause and my hormones have changed a lot, that I don't have that same desperate kind of need and desire, which alleviates that pressure of being single. I feel much happier now on my own, and I don't feel that sort of urge that I used to, which is quite good. I can still turn it on if I need it, but it's not that overarching sort of thing that's encompassing my life like it was before perimenopause, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Is that oversharing, Emma?
No. You and I we're in the same age group.
Yeah, I'm 53.
Yeah, so we got like a year difference between us, if that. And here's what's weird, because before us, well, in America, there was the baby boomers. And then
I am the baby boomer. I'm right at the
me too.
65. I think you are too.
And I'm right on the edge of that Gen X. Is it Gen X? Whatever it was. But then the millennials came. So there was our generation didn't have this big attention on it, like the millennials and the baby boomers. And sometimes you can feel like you miss, like somebody's missed, like that child that was born in the middle who didn't quite get the attention that the baby does and the oldest one does.
Yeah.
Did that affect any of, your social surroundings, the age that you're in, like particularly now?
I think that in a way, growing up without the internet and computers and social media gave us many social skills that kids these days perhaps aren't really getting, and they're finding it much more difficult to communicate face to face. They're very good at it online, and I think that in a way that gave me some skills to be able to feel comfortable in any social situation. I can strike up a conversation with anybody, no matter from what walk of life they're from. And I think that's helped me in many ways. Yeah. Having said that, when internet dating was invented and when I discovered it, it was such a revelation, and it just seemed like that opened up the whole world of possibilities and a whole world of men. And and in actual fact, it was just opening up a whole world of danger for me.
Right.
But I must qualify that with the fact that I've got many friends who have met and married their partners online, and it certainly can be done. I just found myself going after the wrong kind of men and letting myself be. I had a naivety about me and a trusting sense where I thought that everybody would be as nice and generous and truthful and trusting and honest as I am, but they're not. And that's something that I've learned through this process. So I do things very, very differently now. I've learned a lot. And even though I'm online dating kind of, like I really very rarely bother, I would do things very differently. I've learned a lot through my own experience, and I hope others will learn from my book as well.
Right. I recently talked to an author, and she was saying the same thing. She's a robust woman, and she says, I think she's about in her mid 40s or late 40s, and she's like, really, I'm kind of done on it, on the relationship thing. She's like, now I just want sex. She was like,
that's so funny.
She was like, I got too much going on. Now I just want sex, and I want them to go.
That's so funny. I think I'd be the other way around. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I don't really care that much. I mean, of course, it's great if I have it, but I'm really looking for that partner. I'm really looking for companionship. But I have been single for the last, gosh, I don't even know now. I'd have to add it up, like 25 years or whatever. But it'd be nice just to have a partner to share my life with. But I'm also not that bothered if I don't have it. Sorry. Right. Hang on. Can you cut that bit?
Yeah.
I'm not that bothered if I don't have it. So it's fine.
Now, I recently heard this story related to some guys that were in the United States military. And they said when they went to Australia, they got off the boat and there were women waiting on them. And I was like, why? And my friend told me, it's like, because American men treat women a little bit differently than Australian men.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think American men have a, how would you say it? I think it's hard to explain. I think they're more doting and more interested and more gentlemanly, perhaps. I think Aussie men can be very brash or just sort of, I don't know. I think Australians are very straightforward. I think American men are more nurturing and pay you more attention, perhaps. But it's just a different style. I think it's related to the way that we're brought up. I'm sure Australian women are completely different to American women as well. And I think it's cultural. But yes, I think Australian women do like American men. I think they like the way that they seem to really appreciate them, perhaps.
So if I'm
sorry, any Aussie men listening to this, I know that you do appreciate women as well, but I think you show it in a different way.
So I know if my wife and I, or if I go to Australia, my wife is going to be right next to me, and she's going to have a shotgun.
That would probably be very wise.
Now, with this, you have the podcast, so you have a platform that you can discuss really intricate items from your book, from your life, and from other people's lives. But are you going to go out on a speaking tour? Are you going to have workshops? Are you going to be involved in forums and things related to the book and to your podcast? What's all encompassed in what you want to do in the future?
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my book into a true crime podcast. So I'm in the process of pitching it to podcast networks, and I'm also going to get my daughter to help me write it. And it's going to be a 10-part podcast series called Fool Me Twice, and it will be a true crime pod. So that's the first thing I'm going to do.
Awesome.
I've already done one corporate event where I spoke about not online dating safety, but personal safety in general, because I actually teach that at my school. So I have experience teaching personal safety already, because I teach a subject called Learning for Life, which is all about sex education, drug education, personal safety, the environment, universities, how to grow up to be a good global citizen, all of those things. I teach full time. I'm working on Hong Kong Confidential. I'm trying to promote my book, but it'd be great to get out to more speaking events and fairs and things like that. And that's something that I need to do. But I think I want to get the podcast sorted first. And ultimately, I've only got 6 years left in my job because my company has everyone retire at 60. So I need to start to develop a platform through my podcasts and my book where I can continue to work after 60, because I don't want to start in a new school at 60 after being in a school for 25 years. I think that's enough. And so what I think I'll actually do is I probably will start teaching podcasting in schools. So I can do that anywhere. I can go around and teach podcasting in schools.
That's a real one.
Yeah. So I'll have those two things. I'll have my book and the online dating safety speaking thing. I mean, I'm hoping my book could get made into a film one day. So any producers out there in the US listening to Emmett's podcast, hit me up.
I would recommend that they just meet you, because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. I mean, I didn't know this woman from Adam, and she was so friendly and so open, and she was like, hi. We were literally like when you go to kindergarten and your kids, and she had blocks and she wanted to share them. She was like, hi, how are you? And it just spurred from there. And she was like, hey, let me get your information. And here's the cool thing about it. It wasn't some sexual, it was just a human thing. It was just like, I see another human that looks interesting. And that's the approach I think that most of us, or you should teach people how to do. That's a real trait that is missing in this world today.
Definitely. And we were at that party and there were a few of us all dancing together and having such a good time, just letting our hair down and having fun. And if you just feel someone's energy and they feel like a nice person, and this is something that I've learned through my experiences, is to be a little bit more connected to my intuition. So intuitively, I just felt that you're a fun, awesome person. And this podcasting world that we're in is amazing. I love the connections that I'm making, the support that I'm getting, the advice that I can get. And I also feel like for the first time in my life, I've really found my tribe. And I just absolutely can't speak highly enough of this little community that we have. And there are people that I haven't even spoken to face to face, like I have with you, that I feel really are my friends. You know, Javier Leva from the Pretend Radio, Chrissy Lee from Canadian True Crime. You know, these are people that are supporting me, that we chat together, and I feel like I've got a connection with them, and I haven't even met them.
And so that is so awesome.
It's great.
I know it is amazing, because most communities, there's backstabbing, there's envy, there's all this stuff. With podcasters, it's the exact opposite. People are like smiling and ready to meet you and ready to share and ready to talk.
Isn't it amazing? And people are really not competitive. They're not there. They want to see you do well. They want to help promote you, comment on your stuff, do cross promotions with you, all of that. It's just absolutely so inspiring. And I want to now pass that on. I want to pay it forward. Now that I've been podcasting for 18 months, I feel like a veteran. I want to help new podcasters and upcoming podcasters to feel like they're welcome in the community as well. I want to pay it forward. So that's so nice, isn't it?
All right. Jules Hannaford, how can people reach you?
So, Emmett, if people want to get in touch with me, they can find me on Facebook, Jules Hannaford, or Hong Kong Confidential, or Fool Me Twice. Same again with Instagram, Jules_in_HK, and then Hong Kong Confidential and Fool Me Twice book. And I'm at Jules Hannaford on Twitter. So people can get in touch with me any of those ways. And my email is jules@hongkongconfidential.net. But I'd love people to get in touch with me. Please get my book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble all over the world. And for anyone listening in Hong Kong, it's in Hong Kong bookstores, and it's in Dimmock's store in Adelaide, which is my hometown in Australia. And if you love the book, please contact me, give me your feedback, review it on Amazon. That would be amazing. And if you check out my podcast, Hong Kong Confidential, please review that on iTunes.
Awesome.
And thanks so much for having me on the show, Emmett. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you.
You know, I would do anything for you, just about.
Oh, thank you.
I mean,
that's really sweet.
That's how I am.
It's great to be friends with you. I love having my podcasting buddies. It's great.
You know, I actually said this. I said, I want to have people that are nowhere near my area code or zip code that I can call and can be honest with. And when you put things like that in the universe, they take some time to manifest. But if you say it with feeling, and this is really key, you really have to emote things with your heart, your body, and your soul. You have to feel it, because I've asked for things and they've not come. And then when I realize the things that have come is because the intention I did with feeling. I mean, I really felt it when I asked the question. That's how I met my wife. I asked God for her. I literally, but here's the thing.
How did you meet her? I want to know. No, and so will the listeners out there.
I'll tell you. No, I'll tell you that offline.
Okay, cool. All right, cut that.
But so I made this. I've been divorced, and I was in my whore phase. And, you know, I was getting kind of weary of it. And I talked to God and I say, I want a woman who really loves me. I mean, really loves me. I want someone who's nice, blah, 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 blah. I want someone who's had less than X sexual partners. What I was really doing, what I thought I was doing, was setting myself up so I would not meet anybody.
Oh, interesting.
But I said it with such intensity and feeling. God was like, you think that's impossible. Let me show you how I work, son.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
She showed up, and the odds of us being together were so astronomical. Extremely astronomical. The fact that we met on this earth in this time is almost a miracle. Having said that, this is how we have to go about life. Love comes when you're not looking for it. Life happens always. So we have to be very conscious that what we think and what we feel, especially when they join together, are a powerful, powerful, powerful trait. Well, Jules Hannaford, I want to thank you for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Emmett Muckles, I want to thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure and a real honor. And unfortunately, I only interview live in Hong Kong. So when you visit Hong Kong, we'll do a podcast here.
I want to get there too.
It's a great city. It's such a fantastic city. I love it.
I think, would I be really big there, like physically?
Yeah. Yeah. Although there is a huge expat community. So you would be amongst the Asian people, but there still is a massive expat community here. So you wouldn't be unusually ridiculous.
So do I need to learn Mandarin or Cantonese?
It's Cantonese in Hong Kong, but everybody speaks English except some of the older taxi drivers and a couple of the mom and pop shops. But you'll be fine with English. Okay. I can just say, turn left, turn right, go faster, stop here in Cantonese, taxi talk, and count to 10. That's about it.
Really? But you teach?
Yeah, I'm in an international school. It's all in English.
I got you.
I'm a bit ashamed, actually, of how little Cantonese I can speak. I can say how much is that, and that's beautiful, and a few things, but not much.
Wow. Well, this has been awesome having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmett. It's been a pleasure. Ladies
and gentlemen, the universe flows in technicolor and surround sound. That is from our dearly departed podcaster, Combat Jack, or Reggie Osei. He used to end his podcast, and every once in a while I pay homage to him because I loved his podcast. It was about hip-hop and that kind of thing, but he was a force, and his life ended rather suddenly. You know, this is why you must really live life. This is why I always say, love yourself first. When you get out the shower, drop your towel And I want you to go to the mirror, wipe the fog off, and I want you to bask in the glory that you came to this earth in. That is a beautiful creation. Think about it. We've tried to make a human being without a woman, and we have not succeeded. We have tried to play God, and we can't quite get it right. So that lets you know how much of a miracle you are. When you feel down, and I was there just recently, went through a bout, but I always had this thing that tied me to myself, which is I am an original, just like you are an original, and I am a billionaire. Because just from the tip of my finger to where my hand meets my wrist, there's a bunch of little cells there that I own. And in that little area between my dermis, my epidermis, my ligaments, there's a billion cells. So just think about the rest of me. You are the same. So don't chase things. Live experiences and live life. Love yourself every day. And if you get down, remember, there's someone who's looking out for you and loves you dearly. Till next time, peace.